Hey, it's Citizen Cosmos. We're Serge and Anna, and we discover Cosmos by chatting with awesome people from various teams within the Cosmos ecosystem and the community. Join us if you are curious how dreams and ambitions become code.
Yeah, hey everyone, and we have JK with us today. I'm very excited about speaking to you. For one reason, you're obviously the take care of strategy operations for one of the biggest validators. You're probably one of the most active validators in the Cosmos community. I would like you to introduce yourself first, how you want people to know you, though. I mean, tell a little bit about yourself, what you do for stake.fish, and so on and so forth.
Hi everyone, this is JK from stake.fish. Stake.fish is the biggest validator currently on Cosmos. What I'd like to do is just say that we're very much more than just a validator. We consider ourselves an infrastructure provider for all blockchain projects in the blockchain ecosystem. Cosmos just happens to be, of course, one of the biggest ones. Obviously, we were huge fans of Cosmos, which is why we participated in a very big way during Game of Stakes, the first ever incentivized testnet conducted on a newly launching blockchain. Leveraging off of that success there, we've grown into the largest validator on Cosmos, which we're very grateful for. So our team has a lot of experience managing infrastructure, and we're leveraging that to provide these good infrastructure layers to blockchains, because at the end of the day, it's the node runners that determine how well a blockchain performs. And so that's sort of our core service. But we realize that our role should not end there, which is why on top of just providing the infrastructure, we're also building out a lot of tools. For example, on Cosmos, we have a validator leaderboard that we offer on our website. And on top of that, we love growing communities. So we do a lot of community events, make a lot of memes, do a lot of marketing for the Cosmos ecosystem. I am managing most of the business operations at our company, which includes doing some of the research on the Cosmos related projects that are coming up, determining what sort of fees we want to charge, how we approach different clients, customers, how to determine what sort of tools and next products that we should build out in the ecosystem.
So, you are the biggest validator for the moment. Or what do you understand about being a validator that nobody else does? What is your kind of magic?
Let me emphasize, we fully believe in our peers. The thing about validating and the industry we're in is that we cannot exist without reliable peers. So we fully believe some of these stronger validators have what it takes to really run a solid validator infrastructure. Let me just emphasize that, we have full belief that other people have full-on ability to run a good validator as we do. I will emphasize though, where our expertise come from is that, as an example, our head of infrastructure has 2 decades of experience just managing servers and running infrastructure security before coming into the blockchain field in the first place. So we have engineers who have these sort of deep experiences, and they're bringing that to running our infrastructure on Cosmos. What I would like to point to is actually, as I mentioned, we believe in our peers. It's going to be very difficult for people to tell which validators running their infrastructure better or not. What I like to point to is sort of our track record. So far, we have not had any slashing or any downtime, prolonged downtime for our validators. That's what I like to point to show that we do have the expertise in our team, and it shows on our performance.
Sounds like you guys enjoy what you do, and I think this is the main part, right?
Exactly. It's exciting, especially because we're seeing an ecosystem grow out of a blockchain that we're helping maintain. That's what makes it so exciting.
How did you decide to start the staking business? I mean, did you just sleep with it, or something that happened?
I'll tell the story of our founder, Wang Chun, who is the main catalyst of creating stake.fish. He created F2Pool before entering into the proof of stake space. F2Pool is one of the biggest mining pools in proof of work, notably on Bitcoin right now and Ethereum as well. He's been around this space from 2011. He's seen proof of work, and he's seen how important it is to have reliable infrastructure. At the end of the day, it's these infrastructure providers that are going to help maintain blockchains and help make sure that you're able to achieve the best scalability on a blockchain. He was not certain about proof of stake at first. However, he's spoken to Vitalik over time and has spoken to a few of the Casper-related researchers in the Ethereum ecosystem. And he realized that, proof of stake was actually maturing in its research phase, and that it's possible that future networks will launch on proof of stake. The moment he realized this was when he decided to launch stake.fish. And then we try to find out what the best networks we could provide our validator services for. And obviously, Cosmos was pretty high on our radar. Tendermint, of course, being the most notable other proof of stake research that has been done and was being used even before the Cosmos Hub was launched, right, by other blockchains. And so that's why we knew that Cosmos Hub will definitely be an important blockchain to run our staking services on.
You mentioned that technologically Tendermint and Cosmos Code UI, when you guys did research, what exactly was it? The consensus, the finality, speed? Was it something else, the ability to create IBC in the future? What exactly, when you did research about Tendermint and Cosmos, that kind of made you?
So our very basic approach is we believe in a multi-chain future. We don't think there will be only one blockchain that will rule the entire world. We don't think that's feasible, and we believe there will be multiple blockchains that support either globally used or locally used currencies and host different decentralized applications in the future. Considering this sort of thesis that we have, obviously, Cosmos' future of trying to connect different blockchains made a lot of sense to us. Definitely resonated with our thesis. We're not sure whether sharding might be sufficient on Ethereum. Perhaps it will be, but we're not there we want to be able to support still different approaches. And so that's why we knew once we looked at Cosmos and realized what Cosmos was trying to do is really let people run sovereign chains and connect all of these chains to enable different applications. That really resonated with us, and we decided that, we really want to be key players in the Cosmos ecosystem. And look, we really don't know about the future, but we have a strong conviction that the Cosmos ecosystem will likely be one that will survive the next 5 to 10 years.
So your aim is diversify your portfolio as much as possible?
Not as much as possible. We are diversifying to chains that we believe have a strong future. At the end of the day, we see ourselves as reliable and capable infrastructure providers, and we don't want only a few chains to be able to leverage off of our expertise. We want to be there to support as many chains that are trying to do their best to expand their ecosystem, to expand the blockchain ecosystem. Diversification first is not what's in our minds. Rather, it's about trying to support as many project teams that are trying to do their best to expand the blockchain ecosystem.
Could you describe your working style to us in just a few words about your culture and what kind of style do you prefer?
Yeah, sure thing. I'd say we're pretty unique, honestly, of the validator set, because we might be one of the few very totally decentralized teams. We have right now 18 people in our team, but not a whole lot of people share the same time zone. And this, let me be upfront, it provides a lot of challenges, of course. For example, if we're trying to do team meetings, it's very hard to find a good hour of the day for everyone to be on a call. But it has a lot of upsides. I'll provide two. First is a pretty obvious one. Because we have people all around the world, someone is awake, at least at some point in the day, either to monitor our nodes or to answer any questions that our community members might have for us. So that's a huge advantage. But the second pretty overlooked advantage, I'd say, is that we have a diverse perspective. We grew up from different cultural backgrounds. We have different career backgrounds. These all have contributed to the diverse identity that is stake.fish. An example of how much this has helped is when COVID-19 started to hit, especially when it was only hitting regions in China hardest before it was even going global. Of course, most of our team members who are not based in China did not really feel the urgency of it. But thanks to people who live in mainland China, our team members, they've kept warning us. They've told us on and on that things are getting worse, that there will be some serious consequences. There's a huge risk that it might spread. So we started then to remote work from a very early stage. Even here, I'm based in Korea, and Korea really didn't have any lockdowns until mid-March, but we started working remotely starting early February. And this is really because different team members are able to bring in different perspectives depending on where they live, depending on what they're seeing, and depending on how they perceived a situation.
Yeah, I think I can totally relate to this because we've been working as a distributed team for many years now, and it has a lot of upsides. And I mean, we've been sort of on and off professionally working with blockchain for the past 5 years, I think, or maybe a little bit more. And I can totally relate to everything that you say. You mentioned that because you have 18 people and they're all in different time zones, they can all keep track of whether the nodes are up. So that brings the question, are all the people on the team technical? Do they have technical background or no?
Oh, no, not at all. But we have automated monitoring systems up that alerts us. So we have some, without going into too much detail, we have some dedicated Slack channels that will just keep pinging us if there's something weird going on. That way we're able to then relay messages, make sure at least one of our key engineers might awake and, is aware of ongoing situation.
How do you guys, I mean, you have pretty wide list of projects. Not sure if it's the biggest or one of the biggest today in terms of staking providers. How do you guys choose a project? Is that spontaneous decision? Is that an R&D process? Is that A/B testing? What is the secret?
We are one of the largest, definitely not the largest, I believe. We are probably one of the among the top 5 offering the most diverse, I think, set of validators on different chains. The entire process is not easy. Conducting even the due diligence is already complicated enough. Tracking them and then making sure that we're on top of these is a whole different set of challenges. To answer your question, there's only one question that really matters at the end of the day for us. And all the due diligence that we do, the questions we ask and the research we do, eventually I've come to learn is all aimed at answering just one simple question. Is this blockchain contributing something significant to the ecosystem? Will this blockchain survive and will thrive for the next 5 to 10 years? That is the core question that we always try to answer. Maybe some don't survive. I don't dispute that. But we believe that there's a high probability. And that is why we want to make sure, at the very least, we are the ones enabling them to increase the probability of them surviving.
Let's talk a little bit about ecosystem. How you can estimate the ecosystem of the project, and is it good or not good? And a lot of controversial question is being to arise in that field.
Gotcha. That's a very good question. There's various ways to look at it. First is looking at its technical contribution of a project. As an example, if it's not just using the Cosmos SDK and it's building out its own unique consensus or overlaying some unique modules or putting some interesting technical spin to it, we ask, is this contributing something interesting? Will this attract more developers? Will this attract more users to this blockchain? That is one side we consider. The other next is we consider then from an application standpoint. If applications were to jump on this chain, will they be able to do something unique that they wouldn't be able to do on existing chains? The other aspect then we look at is the user's side or the token holders side. By owning this token, are they achieving a different type of utility or store value or some sort of value to them that does not exist in the current ecosystem? So there's various different levels of stakeholders that we take into account and see how impactful a new project will be on each of those stakeholders.
If we generally can understand that each project is different, but let's just assume that generally we can break the general groups of stakeholders into 3. So we're talking investors, users, and infrastructure probably, right? So this is the 3 big groups. Would you agree?
Infrastructure and developers. I think developers are very key.
Yeah, so let's say developers and infrastructure, users and investors. Would you say that either of the group has to be first or last, or would you say that all 3 of them have to come in together in equal parts and pull one by bit? What's the secret here, the secret sauce to make it perfect?
I would say I know the answer, all right? At the end of the day, quite honestly, it's developers. I'll be very upfront. It's the developers that really come first. The reason is because when we're talking about investors, people who hold tokens of some of these projects, for their value of those tokens to go up, that networks needs to be constantly used, expanded. How do you get then more users? You need more interesting applications and you need more those tokens to be used. I mean, what will they use it for? How do you get interesting applications there, you need developers. Developers that are gonna build up interesting applications on chain. Without that, you won't have this chain of events. Eventually, the token value cannot be sustained without developers constantly building on top of a network. Period.
Totally. I agree, definitely. I mean, if we look at Ethereum, I think Ethereum here is the perfect example where we have, 200,000 developers and we see that it works. Before we jump onto other questions, I have a question that is a little bit maybe unrelated, but it's more to your structure. I've looked on the internet and I've seen that you have like a few names. You have Bitfish, Stakefish, Groundfish. I got a little bit confused. What goes where?
Let me first talk about why fish. We chose the name fish largely because fish is actually one of the longest surviving species. One of our main goals is to make sure that we are survivors for the long term. We will be around for as long as the Bitcoin chain or Ethereum is live, basically. We'll be constantly here. So that's one of the reasons why we're really fond of the name fish. To answer your question about like all these, the biggest question is like Bitfish versus Stakefish. Bitfish was the name that we chose when we first incorporated, but we found that a lot of people were just asking questions about what Bitfish does. There was a lot of basic confusion over the name. So we decided that going with Stakefish, there's no way you're confused. At least if you know somewhat about blockchains, you're not going to be confused once you hear stake. That's why we've really decided to rebrand and make sure that we're known as Stakefish. And so when we participated in Game of Stakes, we were participating as Bitfish. It's been a year now, and you could see that you won't really see Bitfish name around our marketing materials or our website anymore. It's all going to be Stakefish.
One slightly controversial question. Obviously, you don't have to answer. You can answer in your own way.
I love controversial questions, please.
It's not really controversial, but it's like a little bit. Let me give you a little bit of background here first. Our team generally that works on cyber right now, we've been working around with blockchain for a while, and we launched a few products before that, and amongst them was a product which was fork of Steemit. We worked a lot with the Graphene database, and so I'm coming to the actual question here. And at first, like everybody, we were really excited about EOS. When first EOS came out, we were like, oh my God, this is going to be like another product and it's going to be so good. And I'll be absolutely honest with you. And I know that this is a public podcast and people are going to hate me after this, but let's be honest. And I'm just my opinion here. Currently, EOS is an absolute shithole, sorry. And this is just a personal opinion. So obviously nobody has to agree with it. But this is how I see it personally right now. Anna has a really good name for it, the Frankenstein of blockchain. Because it kind of became a little bit confused. So I've seen that you guys are a block producer, but I know for sure that before I've seen you guys top of the list, and now I see you gradually going down. What's the story with EOS? Are you guys still supporting it because you've been there since the beginning? Do you feel the same way that EOS is going slightly off track? I mean, I don't want to put words in your mind. What do you think in your own thoughts?
We were a top BP at one point. We did have substantial amount of EOS holdings, and we did get some good voting support, which was why we made it up there. But we found that it's very difficult to maintain your BP ranking unless you have a backing of multiple EOS whales. The fact that I'm saying that sentence speaks to how some of the economic design on EOS may not be entirely as the team intended when they wrote their white paper and when they first launched this. I think that's just evidence enough about why we decided to jump off. Running an EOS BP, by the way, is quite a feat. Their infrastructure it requires a pretty beefy server compared to any of the other chains that we're running right now. So it didn't make sense as soon as we dropped out of paying range and we saw no ways of getting back to a top BP. So that's why we decided to spin it down. To go back to your original question is how I feel about EOS, where it's going next. Well, I think one of the key problems that I constantly found while I was pretty well involved in the ecosystem there wasn't really much feedback going in and out of the EOS community. There was no knowledge coming into the EOS ecosystem from other chains, notably Ethereum, and vice versa. And a multitude of reasons. I won't put the blame on anything, but there might be a multitude of reasons. But just seeing that there was no flow of knowledge going on, I think that was the biggest problem. without learning what the other chains are doing, like why waste good data points that exist on other chains? And just don't write it off just saying, oh, our chain is better, and then just not even look at what issues arise and what sort of products are arising on other chains. I just found that to be ludicrous. That's why I'm grateful that at least in the Cosmos ecosystem, this is happening at least to some extent, where there is a lot of active communication and a lot of knowledge sharing happening with other chains and other developers. And that's one of the reasons why I feel much better about where the Cosmos ecosystem currently stands.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, because I was one of those people who was into proto shares, if you know what proto shares are, which came before BitShares and Angel shares. And I felt since the very first day it was a very closed community. Even though it was a big community and it shared between itself, it would never really go out and always had a thing for others. But okay, let's leave it at that, I guess. Let's not try to pick on them too much so people don't hate me and you.
I'm not really, trying to hate here. I really do think you'll still, as a fact, has the most dApps after Ethereum. I don't deny that. Like it's out there. But the fact is, if once you stop learning, where do you go next? Let's face the hard, cold facts here. The blockchain ecosystem is very, very small. It's all about growing the pie right now, not about trying to divide up and eat more of the pie. If you keep doing that, we're all gonna die off as an industry. The way I see it is the blockchain ecosystem as a whole, and not just secluded walled gardens. I thought that was what we were trying to prevent in the first place. But just to build that up all again does not make any sense to me.
Absolutely. You said there a good sentence. You gave an analogy about eating the pie and about how some projects, you didn't name any projects, but this is my question, and you don't have to obviously name it, you could just skip the question. But what is the worst example of a big project, we're talking big projects, that you think is doing exactly that, the wrong thing, eating the pie instead of trying to spread a pie? Obviously, let's not talk about EOS because I think we mentioned EOS enough. What is, in your opinion, the worst example? Let's say top 50 projects. I mean, obviously, you're aware of the top 50, so...
Well, can I pick on...
You can pick on anyone. You don't have to.
I was just going to name Tron, really, honestly.
For some reason, I knew that. Somehow, I knew that. But, okay.
There's beauty in imitation, but the show can't go on for too long. It's been a while since we've seen true innovation come out of Tron, or any new unique ideas come out of Tron. So please prove me wrong. Please do prove me wrong. I really want to be proven wrong. So maybe it's just an open challenge out there. But so far, what I see is Tron, just what they're doing is just trying to replicate a lot of the famous applications on other chains, and just bringing it to the ecosystem. Just trying to then basically onboard the users of the original application. That's just how I see it right now.
It's obviously the wrong way. We can see that it's not working. Well, let's see. Good luck to them anyways. To move on. In one of your speeches, be honest, I didn't listen to the whole speech, so you might have explained it. So if you did, I apologize ahead of the question. I found a slide where you mentioned that LivePeer is a work token for stake.fish. Can you expand a little? Because LivePeer is a very interesting project. So I'm quite interested for you to expand on that.
The term work token, we're not a validator or infrastructure provider on LivePeer yet. That might change in the future, but it is definitely one of the earlier projects that have had a staking mechanism in them incorporated in order to make sure that their project is able to be run smoothly. What I meant by work token was that they're not a proof of stake network per se. They don't have what are called blocks being added onto a new blockchain. That's not the premise of LivePeer at all. LivePeer is a decentralized video streaming platform. And what they're using is they're making sure that video encoding and video streams are being provided smoothly through incentives created by staking, basically. That's what I meant by work tokens. And there's no exact terminology right now to, I think, discern proof of stake versus some of these work token based staking models. But I think eventually, because it's all still new, we're all still scrambling to really put a terminology on this. But eventually, I think that's what we're just going to converge on, just calling them work tokens. As an example, Chainlink, the Link token is basically very similar in that being a node operator in Chainlink, owning their Chainlink tokens does not mean You're there to create new blocks. You're there to make sure that you incentivize with the tokens that the node operators are properly providing data feeds to the Ethereum blockchain. That's what I meant, and I hope that sort of clarifies what I meant.
Another strange question, which I kind of found while exploring you. Why Sol 3? I mean, obviously Sol 3 is Earth, but I've seen a few places where you mentioned Sol 3. Why did you decide to use Sol 3?
This all comes back to our decentralized nature. And our founder, Chun, really does not see nationalities. He thinks that is something of the past, especially the way we're operating. And so our team will get slightly triggered if someone calls stake.fish a Korean or Chinese or a US based validator, because that's simply not true. We really see ourselves as just children of the earth, basically. Our validator is located somewhere on Earth. Our teammates are living on Earth. We'd rather not put up nationalities when we're branding ourselves and when we're talking about ourselves. Of course, some people might feel more loyal to their nationality and will choose a validator accordingly. That's perfectly fine. I'm not going to judge you for that. But at least know that if you're looking for a certain nationality validator, we're probably not for you.
You know, it's a lot of irony in this, because when we prepare to the interview, to our podcast, we have a bunch of questions about the international nature of blockchain. Blockchain has no national barriers. You can easily communicate with people in Australia or from India or from whatever in Europe. So we see technology is a really international thing, and English is definitely the first choice language when we're speaking about blockchain. But we still have some national languages, and we still have a lot of community and ecosystem behind the projects. Do you think that you have your special language community, or it's only international English level, how it exists now?
It's a very good question, and you're getting at sort of the main problem here, in that even if we say we're international, at the end of the day, what language do you speak in your team? And it's English, which then, provides a lot of advantage to certain projects, to certain nationalities, while it doesn't for others. So we're okay with having one, at least, common component for communications. I think that's a problem that needs to be solved later down the road. At least for now, we need to communicate, so we're comfortable with English. But because we realize that there are so many different people that do not speak English and speak different languages, if you look at our website, we support a whole ton of different languages. Now, most recently, we added, for example, Hebrew, and we're going to keep adding new languages. And this is because we want to make sure that anyone in the world with any nationality, speak any languages, are able to understand how they can stake and can visit our website. I hope that sort of answers that question. And what I'm trying to get at is, while we understand that we will need to speak English as a common denominator, we are trying to be as inclusive as possible by providing all sorts of different translations of our website.
You have translation only for your website, or you have community chats on other languages too?
For now, the translations we're doing mainly for our website. For community-wise, we are operating an English Telegram channel, and we are also operating a Chinese WeChat group. We would love to expand this quite a lot more, but the reality is that will require a lot more people. It's not a secret that validators are not earning Bitmain level revenues at this point.
So I'm just curious, which group is bigger, your WeChat group or your Telegram chat group for the moment?
I believe at the moment it will be our Telegram group. Yep.
It's interesting that you say about borderless, because I can relate to that a lot, and we kind of try to speak. We believe in the bigger things and the greater things, and if you look at our manifests, I mean, we talk about evolution of species and evolution of humanity, and it's a good thing that I think projects, and especially validators and people who do infrastructure, have something greater as a reason to what they do. So from what I'm hearing from you, is that so? It sounds like you guys have a reason to do all this, not because you're earning money or because you're helping to secure technology. It sounds like you guys have a bigger reason of decentralization and bringing people together. Am I hearing correctly, or am I misinterpreting that a little bit?
I'd say that, and then along with just trying to be an infrastructure provider so that blockchain ecosystems are able to thrive, are both key missions here. Because, I mean, we're not business savvy, meaning we're not going to be constantly losing money. We want to make sure we are sustainable, and without sustainability, we will not be able to survive. But, revenue is definitely not like the number one factor, I'd say. Because if that was the case, I don't think we'd be in operations right now.
Sure, sure. Makes sense. Going back to Cosmos, what do you think? Again, you could answer your personal opinion, you could answer opinion from the biggest validator, of course, it's up to you. What do you think about the current governance of Cosmos? Is it good? Is there room to improve?
I think it's difficult to render a judgment right now or an opinion right now, just because Gavin has been putting in some awesome work on revamping sort of entire government process of Cosmos. So before, I would say there were definitely weak and broken spots. We've actually voiced this after we concluded Game of Stakes. Actually, it was right before we concluded Game of Stakes. We've already mentioned there that just the fact that, for those of you who are unaware, on Game of Stakes, stake.fish was forked out on one of the Game of Stakes networks because we were running around 50-something% of the network. And this was an attack we had conducted on Game of Stakes just to prove our competency. And
I remember that actually. You wrote publicly about it, yeah? Sorry if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, you had a lot of posts about it. Is that correct?
yes, and one of the points I pointed out there was that there was no really defined governance process in how we were forked out. And I've highlighted it there specifically because I would see people complaining about how 36 hours of, wait time was enough. That some people were complaining it wasn't. Just the fact that there was a lot of argument around the processes itself was a huge problem. I did see that would eventually become a problem, and we've seen that sometimes pan out on in the early days of Cosmos. But thankfully, there weren't any huge problems caused by the lack of a proper governance process. Gavin's work, Gavin from Figment Network, his work will finally make sure that we prevent any huge governance related issues, at least for the foreseeable future.
What is the other aspect? Like, if we look at Cosmos, like, let's break it into modules. We have the governance model, we have the economic model, the economical model, and so on and so on. What is the other aspect of Cosmos as a big ecosystem that you consider, apart from governance, to be important? And what improvements do you think that part of Cosmos needs?
Rather than improvement, I just want to highlight IBC. Just because the entire Cosmos ecosystem is depending on this. A lot of the projects that have been built using the Cosmos SDK relies on IBC. Without IBC, a lot of these projects will have to build individual bridges, which will not really make their project sustainable or scalable. IBC is just so key here. If IBC is not delivered, if IBC is not what people envision it to be, I think that would definitely put a huge pause to the Cosmos ecosystem's expansion.
What is the most exciting case that you're excited to see on IBC? Something unusual. Do you have something in mind like that?
Something unusual. I'm not sure about something unusual, unfortunately.
Okay, what about something usual?
One of the key projects that are just waiting in the pipeline is, as an example, Kava, right? Just imagine as soon as IBC is live, imagine being able to move around all of your tokens on different Cosmos SDK based chains to Kava to lock it up and to issue stablecoins. I think that is such an interesting and that is an exciting DeFi future. I'm excited to see, this is just, I think, level one of what we could expect as soon as IBC is live. because we're able to grasp this because we've seen how DeFi grew out on Ethereum. But I'm quite sure there are much more applications that I can't even imagine right now being built up as soon as IBC comes live.
Yeah, totally. I think it will create huge opportunities for all types of markets. DeFi definitely is probably, if not the most exciting, one of the most exciting. What is the one project in the blockchain space, not Cosmos related, that currently excites you personally as somebody who's obviously been doing blockchain for a long, long time?
There are teams that are building up applications that have blockchains in their backbone. The unique thing about these projects that I will name is that the users, the mainstream users, do not have to interact with the blockchain at all. Meaning they don't have to worry about private keys. They don't have to worry about making sure their addresses are correct. Just the fact that they have abstracted all of these issues is really what excites me about them. The projects are things like Terra, Audius on Ethereum, and then DLive, which was a Cosmos SDK based project, but is now on BitTorrent. And the unique thing about all of these projects, I mean, I'm not here to say they're perfect, but they're applications that they're running. The users do not have to worry about losing their keys, do not have to learn any of the crypto related lingo, is I think what helps them to then truly bring blockchain to mainstream. I mean, some might dispute that that's not the way we want to go, but I do see value in their approach, honestly. Let's dive a bit deeper, like looking into Terra, for example. The transactions they're processing on the Chai, their payments, one of the payments application on Terra, they are doing a whole lot of transactions. And these are real live transactions by real users who probably have never heard of blockchains, who just probably wanted to get discounts or wanted to just use a convenient app to pay for any of their products, interacting with real commerce, real sellers of products or hospitality. Just the fact that Terra has been able to create this ecosystem with a blockchain in the backbone, it excites me beyond anything I've seen so far. I'm expecting a lot more exciting things to come out of these teams because they have already been able to attract tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands of users, that a lot of the blockchain application will start to become interested in what they've built out and will likely try to build out other services to these users.
Would you say that the key to adoption is kind of making the usability to the end user seamless, right? So he doesn't feel that he has to deal with all the technical stuff. He just goes in, does what the application's supposed to do, and he doesn't know what's in the back of the engine, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, I think you've summarized it very well. And as an example, in the space that we live in the crypto space, privacy is key, right? We really treasure privacy and we try to make sure that we're on top of our privacy best practices. But let's take Zoom, for example. Zoom had a whole host of privacy related issues this past month. But did that stop mainstream users? Did that stop schools from using Zoom to do their classes? If you look at the numbers, it really didn't. Mainstream users need tools and applications that are easy to use that will help provide value to their lives. I do believe, at least for the first step, we should try to build the applications and the use cases that will gain mainstream adoption will be ones that abstract away a lot of the crypto native complicated issues such as handling of private keys.
I agree. There is some things that I think a little bit different, but I understand what you're saying in terms of that sometimes it's overcomplicating is definitely not the best way to have mass adoption.
I think that we have to simplify. If we try to attract new users, we have to simplify this as much as we can, because it shows the core of these projects, the main advantages of using that kind of technology. In your process as a validator, how you try to simplify it? It's for users, because I know that you provide some guides. I saw it on Medium. So how you try to simplify the process for someone who try to stake it with you?
We're still pretty crypto native, meaning that because we don't want to take custody of anyone's funds, we are still pretty crypto native, meaning Any users that want to stake with us will need to be able to manage their own wallets. But as soon as that's figured out, we try to make the entire process afterwards pretty straightforward by providing as much education instructions as possible. We provide not only just written instructions, but we also provide video related instructions. Eventually, we will be providing much more easier tools for people to stake that will take a bit more time for us to get there.
I mean, I think you've been doing a great job at it as well, because obviously I can go on your website, you have straight away a calculator that helps you to understand how much you can stake. So I think that's a very good job you guys doing at it. Is there any other technology apart from blockchain, obviously, that excites you personally?
Personally, no, really, not really.
It's a blockchain world.
Yeah, I'm being just very honest. There's a reason why I'm very much in this space. Everything about blockchains excite me. To me, that's the reason why I'm here. If there's any other technology that I'm excited about, like I'd be dabbling in that. But so far, it's been really blockchain for me.
Yeah, I understand exactly what you say. Some people, when I tell them that, they're like, "So you've been doing blockchain for what, 8 years?" And I was like, "Yeah." It's like, "Oh my god."
Yeah, maybe we don't ask something that is really important and you think that you have to say something that it's really core question we don't ask.
Yeah, I think I just like to just say, I just want to stress, I know I already stressed IBC, but I just want to stress that again. Just want to hammer that constantly. Just because if Cosmos does not have IBC live, we're, the ecosystem really will not be able to grow. We really need IBC. I know the team has been working tirelessly, and I really do hope the Game of Zones showcases that. And so we'll be participating in Game of Zones, but I just want to make sure that we stress where our main focus on the Cosmos ecosystem lies. We need to see that IBC vision crystallizing. We need to see that formulating. We'll try our best to make that happen, but we realize that it also will require everyone in the ecosystem to help out to make sure that IBC becomes what it's meant to be.
That sounds like a good message to everyone, so for people can understand the value of IBC and how it's important to everybody, and not to just developers or users, to the whole ecosystem, like you say. Okay, cool. Okay, JK, it's been really fun talking to you, and it's great having you on. Thanks for coming and thanks for sharing everything.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for putting together this awesome podcast. It was a lot of fun talking with you guys about the Cosmos ecosystem and also about some controversial related topics. You guys should definitely keep this up, and I'd be happy to join again at some point in the future when we have some more interesting things to talk about.
Yeah, thank you, definitely.